6:15 in the UK and in Portugal. It's time for the Fresh Air crew and head gardener McGrady to get out and grow. And in fact, Lee's just got in from a day out working in the garden. Bit chilly in the capital, I think, after the sun's gone down, Lee?
Been a beautiful day. Clear blue skies, 18, 19 degrees. But as soon as the sun goes down, the temperature drops, and now it's hoodie weather.
Hoodie weather. Yeah. All right. And I think you're going to be telling us a bit more about firing up the old chainsaw, because I think you've been busy doing that, haven't you, for the last day or two? So we'll find out how to get into that, how to do it safely. Let's go to Devon and speak to Anna and John. How are you doing, Anna?
Doing all right. Been a fairly busy week, so yes, waking up. Feel like I'm waking up a little bit, and it's not been too bad weather-wise. I think autumn is actually getting underway now, because there's leaves starting to fall already, and it's about 10 degrees here according to my smart speaker. So yes, it's feeling a little bit cooler in the air, although I haven't actually been out today. But yeah, it has been good, busy week, and yes, getting used to the slightly darker evenings. It's a bit different getting darker around 4 o'clock or 5 in the evening, but yeah, otherwise doing all right.
Hey, didn't have speakers like that in my day. You've got a speaker that tells you what the temperature is.
It's just on my just in my room. It's quite good for reminders, and yes, it sort of shows the weather and sports updates and all that sort of thing.
What? Oh, wow. Okay. Portugal need to pull their socks up to stay in the World Cup. It's a bit of a shocker, wasn't it?
Yes, I think I saw about that as well, and yes, I think yes. I don't. I was going to say I don't know if it's a Ronaldo effect or something like that, but yes, I only read up about that today. That,
he should get us through in the nick of time, as he normally
does. I think
does.
England are playing this evening as well, so love to see how that goes.
Cool. Our mate Jason's here. How are you, Jason? Lovely to hear from you. What's your plot looking like? And we see a little bit of a picture of it there with. What's the name of his wonderful horse box? She's got a lovely name, hasn't she? Like Cressida or something like that. I can't remember what she's called. But tell us what's going on at your place, Jason, at this time of year. Have you been roasting chestnuts and proving the first wine crop of your neighbours? John Agate, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. My sister was down at the weekend from Bath, so that was good. What did we do on Saturday now? I can't remember. Oh, for goodness sake, that's really irritating. I'm just trying to think now.
Must have been a busy weekend.
Yeah. It'll come back to me. But yeah.
Cool. Okay. Glad to hear you well. And yeah, you're not far from Anna, are you there? How do you cope with the dark evenings?
Pardon?
How do you cope with the dark evenings of a winter?
I don't know, really. I mean, I guess it's just how it is, really. It's not great, but
stoic.
It's kind of
Well, I like that. That's just how it is. Fair enough. It's a good answer. Okay, your questions, please, in the chat tonight, as John has reminded us there. If you forgot to let Anna know about your question in our group over on Facebook, or have only just thought of one, indeed, let us know here in the chat. It'd be great to hear from Jason. Seems a bit quiet tonight. Maybe people are very chilly at home and aren't motivated to ask anything. Let's talk about chainsaws for a moment, then, Lee. What have you been up to?
It's that time of year. It's collecting and chopping up my firewood, getting everything ready for the coming cold nights. So Saturday today was fire chopping sessions. My back really feels it now. Well, yeah, it's all good fun. I actually look forward to it. It's something I actually look forward to every year. And I always have.
Yeah. Now, it looks terrifying. It looks terrifying to me. A lot of people are coming to Portugal, aren't they, to set up their own homestead. Having a chainsaw is going to be really very useful, because a lot of them are thinking, I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to have a saw, and I'm going to have an axe, and I'm going to be proper back to the countryside, back to the good life. And then after maybe chopping and sawing a few logs, they're thinking, maybe I need to mechanize it. I'm exhausted. It's nearly a whole day's gone. How do people? Is it too dangerous for your average punter to get into, or is it doable? And can you buy stuff from the garden centre that make that is good enough?
Whenever you play with a chainsaw, play might be the wrong word. Whenever you use a chainsaw, it's always dangerous.
Right.
And in the past, I would have said make sure you go on a course and learn at least the basics. But there are so many great YouTube channels out which primarily deal with chainsaw maintenance and care that you could spend a couple hours on YouTube and you should be okay. Just respecting it and knowing how dangerous they are when you start to use one. But if you go at it with an understanding and a bit of sensibility, then you should be okay.
Okay.
There's a lot of electric chainsaws out at the moment. I don't like them. I think they're dangerous.
Why?
Because they have a cable attached to them.
Yes.
And as far as I'm concerned, it's just a trip hazard. It's just an accident waiting to happen.
I see. Right. Okay.
I've never liked them. Although they do stop and start on the click of the button, where with a petrol chainsaw, it's not always the way.
Yes.
So there's plus and minuses to both.
It's not just cutting through the cable. It's like you might trip over it and then have an accident with the chainsaw itself.
Yeah. If you've got a petrol chainsaw in your hand, when you put it down, it's there. When you're working with an electric chainsaw, you've got this cable that hangs behind you. Yeah. And anything with a cable on is always dangerous when you've got a sharp blade attached to it.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of people taking lawnmowers over electric cables and hitting them with chainsaws and strimmers. I wouldn't ever have one.
Okay, interesting.
But
are the batteries up to it to have a rechargeable chainsaw yet?
Well, the new Still equipment is all battery, and they are apparently fantastic. Okay. Although I'm reluctant to spend the money on them personally, because my kit's all fairly new here in Portugal. But the new Still, if I was getting into it now, I would be looking at battery operated equipment. I just would. It's just once you've paid out for the charger and the batteries that you need, then the equipment is so much cheaper and it's quieter, and it'll save people going deaf. But if you're using a chainsaw, it's all about keeping your area clean where you're working, having a clear foot space to work in, and keeping your blade tight. As you're using the saw, the blade gets hotter and it starts to expand a little bit, and it's very easy to slip off the bar if you're not careful. And when it slips off the bar, it does like a little cartwheel on itself. That's when it gets dangerous. It's stuff like that you're not prepared for. So it's tight all the time. Make sure you've got oil in it as well as petrol. And keeping your blade sharp is a big safety issue. If you've got a really sharp blade, you technically don't need to put any weight on the saw when you're cutting. You let the saw do the work. But once the blade goes dull, you start to force it into the wood, and that becomes then, because you're applying pressure on it when you shouldn't really be doing that. You should be letting the saw do the work. Okay,
interesting. Thank you for that.
There's loads of videos. If you're going to buy one, make sure you watch at least a couple of the scary videos first. When have it terrified into you how dangerous they are. And the other issue, which I didn't do today, is chainsaw trousers, helmet, and earmuffs. Right. They are really, you should really always be at least wearing the trousers, because they're full of material that stops the chain from destroying your legs.
Okay, well that's worth doing. Okay, good stuff. Good to know. Back to Jason. We are 3/4 of the way through our olive harvest. We tried the wine on the 11th, but it's not quite there yet. So I had to eat chestnuts with beer. That's not so bad, is it? And shop bought wine. Bit too much, if I'm honest. Hey, but siphoning and bottling the cider tomorrow and making cider as well. Don't see so much cider being made in Portugal. A lot of it seems to be this imported, marketed stuff. So good on you, Jason, for making cider in Portugal. That sounds fantastic. Really good to hear from you. Thank you for that. Peter Bleach, look at this. Glad you had a great weekend. Brush cutting today with the tractor. Lots of firewood in terms of olives. Yes, and olive wood probably has quite a nice aroma, doesn't it? What is your top YouTube channel recommendation for chainsaws, Lee? And he has got a still electric. So can you name any of those channels you were talking about there, Lee?
I can't, because it's been a long time since I've watched any of them. But I do have a link for one. I do follow one. I just can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I'll have to post a link in the group.
All right. Well, Stephen's here. Look, Bucking Billy Ray Smith. He sounds like a good old boy, doesn't he? On YouTube is a good chainsaw use channel. So there you go. There's a tip from Stephen Wells. And suddenly you just get
that one. Yeah. No, I've seen that one. The chap's got a massive truck. Yeah. It's a good channel, that one. Yeah.
And it's great when you see them, when you see these videos of how they've taken a tree down in a tiny gap or something really smart like that, with a lot of care and attention and ropes and so on. Yes, I mean, it's dangerous stuff. It's not just the chainsaw, is it? It's when the tree comes down as well. I don't think people ever estimate how much force and power there is going on there when a tree comes down. When it hits the ground or when it screeches, when it comes apart as well. These are terrifying things that you're involving yourself in. So do be careful if you're going to be doing anything like that. Pete's saying it has no cable. This is Pete's electric still and extends, but just a little low on power. The still ones have no cable, just batteries that you insert. So Tesla man on the driveway and a bit of a Tesla electric man on the chainsaw as well. And it will just get better and better, of course, won't it? And a great top tip. Go on, Lee.
The still battery equipment is meant to be really good. Like I say, I've not invested in any of it yet, but there'll come a point where you kind of have to. But yeah, every year you just get better and better.
And a lot more convenient, right? Although I guess part of the, if you've been the sort of person who's used a chainsaw for all of their working life, you'll have become accustomed. Is it two-stroke? That particular smell of chainsaw oil and fuel at work, and it won't be there, will it? Unless they've done sort of Tesla style engineering and you've got an app for the smell the aroma that can be generated as well.
On that note, I have two lawnmowers that I use predominantly. One of them's a still, and one's a big professional Honda. But with the damp weather we've had, I've kind of stopped using the big Honda now because it's leaving tyre marks in the grass. So I've gone back to using the lighter still. But today I got the Honda out just to cut my own grass and give it a run out, so it doesn't get all blocked up and seized up over the winter. And when I started it, it smoked a little bit, and it had that proper smell to a lawnmower engine. And just this morning, 9 o'clock, I was thinking exactly the same. Oh, I miss that.
Yeah. It's there for people, isn't it? It'll go with the generation that will. So if you're about to immigrate, get your tools in the UK or USA. They are so much cheaper than here. But Pete, if it's younger than 6 months old, sometimes there's a bit of argy-bargy on the border because it looks like you're importing it. So you've got to show that it's been in your use, I think, for 6 months. And I mean, these things aren't small things. So there's going to be a bit of a toss up there, but I do definitely take your point. But overall, it still might be worth buying it here, even if you've got to pay the premium because of all the hassle that you might face if you try and import it. Albeit,
I think what I'd recommend is moving out here and buying all fresh. Although it's an expensive purchase when you get here, you get to know your local.
Yes.
I did going with still. You get to know your local still salesman.
Yeah.
You get to know your local shop, and most things come with like a 5 or 10 year guarantee on them. So if you buy it from the shop, anything happens in that 5 years, you're going back to the same shop. You're dealing with the same people. I've got quite a good rapport now with the guys at our shop because I'm there every other week. And I considered the same thing when I was moving out, bringing all my gear over. And in the end, I just sold it in England and rebought over here. And I'm glad I did. Yeah.
Okay. So as well, Pete, another tip is work your chainsaw in slowly. And he's broken a couple by not doing that, by being impatient, probably. Yeah, I mean, what's the hurry, Murray? You're going to save a lot of time with a machine anyway, aren't you? But I guess it's a matter of getting used to it and being patient, as Pete is pointing out there. Just bought 5 litres of chain oil today. So Jason, definitely a chainsaw man. And Pete, 7.5 tons of olives. Say that again, Lee.
It's an expensive hobby, buying chain oil.
Oh, okay. 7.5 tons of olives thus far, but only 1/6 of it done over at Bleach Manor there. And thanks to Stephen Wells, much appreciated for that chainsaw link. Who would be scared using a battery chainsaw? At least a petrol one is shouting at you, reminding it's nasty. And I guess you with an electric one, you're looking, is this thing on? A bit like an electric car. I hope it makes a noise, a reassuring sort of buzz or whir or something, so that you know it's definitely on. And Eric's here as well. Hey, Eric, great to have your company. Just joined. We're cleaning the house and playing in the garden by the sound of it. So good to hear from you, mate. Anything we can do for you? You're often great for a question. Coming to you, Anna, in just a moment with questions. Howdy, Green Thumbers from Thunderduck. I saw the show was live, but I can only hang out for a few minutes. Very good of you to join in, sir. We had an awful accident in South East London where an old fella decapitated his wife who was bringing him a cup of tea when doing his hedge. That sounds awful, doesn't it? The look on your face, John, there, because I think John is an actor, thespian, and was giving us a kind of guide to what not to do while you were talking earlier on, Lee, and sort of acting out the horrors there. That is a truly awful situation. On the brighter side, when you've got the old hedge trimmer out, you can do a bit of topiary. Ever done that, Lee? Are you ever asked to shape the bush of a client?
I'm not very good at it, in all honesty. I do enjoy doing it, but it's a definite skill to it, and it just takes time. When I was younger, we used to do the wireframe topiary. We used to grow our own cocks, dogs, and all sorts. We used to grow all sorts. But obviously, in my day-to-day work, I have to do hedges and balls and mushrooms every day. I can do them quite easily. But if it comes to something a bit more technical, I get my little dubbing shears out and do it slowly.
Oh, I see. Very good. Very good. Okay, Anna, what questions have we got today?
We've got. I'll start with one for Louisa. I literally had these two in the last 10 minutes before tuning in. This one is a sort of black plastic related one. Louisa said she'd love to know what the benefit is of the black plastic. I seem to have repeated myself there. That they drive past, supposedly to keep the ground moist, and why is it done now?
Well, it's two good reasons, really. Black retains heat, so they don't use white or blue because black is the best colour for retaining heat, and that retains heat in the soil. And it also prevents weeds coming up. And this time of year in Portugal is the time for weeds. Right. In the summer months, it's just too dry and everything burns off and dies. What you'll notice as you're driving around now, all the embankments are turning green, all the fields are turning green, and that's predominantly weeds coming through. So the black plastic will prevent weed growth and also retain heat and moisture in the soil. So, yeah.
And the machine does it, doesn't it? Because I was noticing, I think in the spring as well, there were fields in this area along the Silver Coast sort of area where they were putting little vineyard stubs or whips in the ground. And is there a machine that does the whole thing? It kind of plants the whip and stretches the plastic and cuts a little hole for the whip, and it's just done by an incredible machine.
Yeah. The black plastics come in massive rolls, so it's really difficult to pull it out by hand. So yeah, there are tractor back mounted machinery now that stretches it out. A lot of the planting's still done by hand. There's some great little tools for doing that, where you pop the tubular hand tool through the plastic and then drop your chute in, and then remove the bit of kit. But yeah, it's becoming more and more mechanized all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We used a machine back in the UK 15, 16 years ago that used to plough the ground up and drop bulbs in and then level the ground back off afterwards. So you could plant thousands of bulbs in a day, in perfect straight lines or in perfect blocks. So yeah, it's all becoming mechanized slowly and surely.
Yeah. Okay. Talking of silent machines, electric machines, I have to admit, I love the Tesla being silent. I may have found a way of turning the horn into a fart noise, says Pete, and sneaking up behind tractor drivers. Endless fun in the Portuguese countryside there, making friends with the neighbours. Nice one, Pete. This might be for you as well, Pete. When living off grid, does the electricity company bother you to get a connection even when you have solar panels, or do they leave you alone? That's a good question. And Pete, I think we'll be able to answer that along with how much land have you got there. So Lee, do they bother you?
Yeah, they do bother you constantly. Yeah, and so does the government. And this is the same in the UK as well.
Yeah.
The government really like you being off grid in the UK. And
Yeah.
the water company also bothers you. I had shocking trouble with Scottish Water about my runoff. They wanted me to pay for the runoff from the roof. And in my off-grid home in Scotland, they expected me to pay them, even though I lived in the middle of nowhere, and my runoff went into my pond. You know,
yeah.
they yeah. It's constant trouble with them, electric and water.
I've got a feeling I think I know what you told them.
Oh, you can imagine what I told them. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Anna, next question.
And the TV licensing guy used to come as well.
Did he get the same? Did he get the same suggestion?
I set the dog on him. They wound me up something rotten. The first guy that came actually complained that he'd have to walk across the field to get to me, like it was my responsibility that he had to travel across mud to get to me.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway,
well,
different story.
Collecting money for David Attenborough. You could look at it that way. Okay, Anna, another question.
That's right. I think I just saw another follow-up question from Eric just come in, and I've got one from my friend Emily, who I think is in the Exeter area in UK. When is the last time to mow a lawn?
Oh,
classic.
It really depends where you are. You don't want to mow you don't want to mow if there's a frost due. So that kind of puts a stop to it. And you don't want your grass to be too short over the winter period. You want a good length of grass. You want at least, well, going inches, you want at least an inch and a half, even on a very short lawn, because it protects it from fungus as well as the frost. But this time of year, you'll be getting a lot of dew on the lawn in the morning. So you should never cut the grass when it's wet with dew, because a wet dew is a cold water, and it doesn't like to be cut. And you can't do a proper cut while it's wet anyway. So I imagine mowing has pretty much stopped in the UK already, or should have stopped in the UK. Maybe a bit different down south, but yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's great. And that is a classic, isn't it? Because that would be a worry to some people if they don't want to destroy. They don't want to do it for the last time of the year and then destroy it in the process. Quite a lot of talk.
Here in Portugal, I mow all the year through in Portugal. But in the periods, I raise my deck a little bit, so I'm not cutting it as short, and I don't cut as often. But in Portugal, you cut all year round. But in England, you should definitely stop before the first frost. Okay,
great stuff. Okay, drain off, eh? I don't know if that's a question or a comment or a suggestion. I don't know. It's not, or a medical condition. Don's here as well on solar. Can you sell the excess to the power company? I believe Pete does that, and he may get back to us to answer the other questions. When living off grid, does the electricity company bother you? Yeah, I think we've touched on that, haven't we? Yeah, we certainly answered that one. It was the other question you had. But do you have to have a connection according to the rules, or can you shoosh them away? That's interesting, because I know some people want a connection and can't get one sometimes, or they have to pay handsomely for it. So I don't think you have to, Eric, but others might be better placed to answer that. Stephen might have done some research on that. Would you know, Lee?
Well, that's what the British government was saying, that you had to be connected.
Yeah.
At some point to the electric, to the wastewater, and I was saying it's completely irrelevant to me and would be financially.
Yes.
Impossible, really, because I was literally in the middle of nowhere, and so to run a waste water pipe through to the house would have been, well, first of all, damaging to the ground and the farm, and just so expensive it would never pay for itself.
Yeah.
So yeah. They left me alone in the end.
Okay, Eric, you might want to reach out to Jason, who's managing to do that, and not by the sound of it, having any pressure, or certainly not succumbing to it. EDP, that's the electricity company here, Eric, in case you didn't know. They're just awful. Been waiting since March to get a connection. So Pete wants one and can't get one, but the water company have been great and unbelievably cheap for the pool. Water is very, very good value in Portugal, I found, and I have between 17 and 20 hectares. Does it change, Pete? It expands and contracts there, or
everything changes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, someone just turns up and says, "Actually, that bit's mine," but you can look after it. It's all sort of easygoing and informal. And Thunderduck, not at all happy about this drain off thing. Sorry, not that one. Turn the hose on the water company. You want it? Here you go. Shove off, push off, drain off, whatever. There's an independent man speaking. Don, I'm still mowing. Well, just mulching, setting the deck high and mulching away. Sounds like a song, doesn't it? I'm setting the deck high and I'm mulching away. Here we go. Lee, what do you suggest for keeping the lawn green and healthy? Spray water using a hose on top of it twice a week, or flood it once a week? What's more water efficient? Great questions there.
I tend to go for the twice a week or 3 times a week option here in Portugal. My machine's now set for midday, 4 or 5 minutes for each lawn, 3 times a week. And the reason I do it in midday is because if you do it in the morning, you've still got the dew down, so you're not getting any benefit from it. If you do it at night with these cold nights, you're going to either shock the grass with the cold, or you're going to encourage fungus and bacteria into the grass. So midday watering, my lawns are taking 4 minutes maximum. I think one of them is even on 3. That's 3 times. That's 3 times a week. Yeah.
Well, I see.
Because I tend to mow on the same days as well. I make sure I don't water on the day that I'm going to mow them, just to make it easier for me. That's something to think about.
Yes, I walk past quite a few. When I'm out walking the dogs in the morning, I live near quite a few houses, luxury houses, where people don't live there all the time, and they've got setups where their lawns are being sprayed, irrigated on timers. And I'm thinking, it's raining, and I'm hearing the psh of the automatic irrigation. Now, presumably, we've got much better Internet of Things based, more modern, more sensitive, appropriate bits of kit now. Well, that shouldn't be happening, should it?
15 years ago, you could buy a kit with a water sensor on it or a rain sensor. So when it was raining, it closed itself off.
Yeah.
Now you can buy sensors that actually fit into the ground, and they only water when there's no moisture in the soil.
Yeah.
So there's hundreds of bits of kit now, and a lot of the new ones are all connected to your telephone as well.
Yes.
So you can turn it off and on at the touch of a button.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Okay, I think you got something, Anna or John, that's come in.
I was actually just going to ask a question, but I think it might have already been answered. I was just thinking, especially for my times of seeing football and things like that, I was sort of intrigued as to why they use. I can understand with irrigation systems, because I know my dad's got one and it's underneath a veranda kind of glass panel. But I was thinking, when it comes to grass, is there a reason why we use sprinkler systems when you sort of get natural rain that's going to soak it anyway, or has it got something different in it that helps?
Well, it's a good question. Rainwater is the best method for watering because it's a cooler water that comes down. Sprinkler systems are very cold water, but with football pitches and big sports facilities now, they actually have underground water systems and they have underground heated systems, so they can really regulate the growth of grass. That's why the pitches now are so much better than they were in the 70s and early 80s. And a lot of the big Premier teams will actually turf during the football season. They'll remove all the grass and replace it all midweek.
Really?
Between oh yeah. I mean, I believe this is a fact. I know several years ago, Manchester United used to go through 3 pitches a year at Old Trafford. They used to lift and replace the pitches 3 times during the season. but they have underground heating, underground sensors, and underground watering systems.
Incredible.
So, yeah, it's an expensive hobby when you run a big football stadium, and to make them look so, yeah. But they also fertilize a lot. They'll use a very specific fertilizer on the grass to get that thick blade, which is perfect for the ball.
Interesting. Footballer spit, I hear, is quite a good conditioner for football pitches, and it gets a lot of it. Okay, so this question's been hanging around for a little while. I think perhaps this is the one we're to-ing and fro-ing behind the scenes here, trying to find out who asked this. And I think you might know, Anna. I'm mostly interested in growing fruit and veggies.
If it's Khadija, I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to check.
Oh, okay. So anyway, we can answer this, and we may find out who it was later. But it's a good one. Somebody interested in growing fruit and veg and permaculture, maybe something on layout, companion planting, and when to start planting different things here in Portugal. I'm very much doing a trial and error. Last year was a bit of a disaster. Now, we know what Lee might say here, because whilst you're looking at your own garden and worrying what to do, your neighbours are planting things. And that is the great cue, isn't it, Lee? Look at what the neighbours are doing. They've been doing it for years. If
you've learned something off doing this show, Carl, that'll be it. Look at your neighbours' gardens. Yeah, it's the best bit of advice that I ever received when I was first learning. Yeah, starting out. Look at what's around you and use that as your calendar. The great thing with companion planting is you can look on all the websites, you can look at all the Google images, and it's never quite right, because it's never quite your season or your little ecosystem, your little weather system. So it doesn't always work the same way. So keeping a diary and a plan of what you did last year to learn from your mistakes is the best way of doing it. Without being specific on an area. I still do it now. I still keep a diary of when I've planted, when I've seeded, and they go back for years. So yeah, keep a diary. Look at what's for sale in your area at the smaller shops and at the local markets, because that's a great indicator of what's ready to go in and out. And make a diary of make a note in your diary when they come on sale, so then you can work out when you need to do your seeding the year before or the year after. But speak to your neighbours, look at your neighbours' gardens, see what they're doing. When they pull their tomatoes, it's a pretty good indication for you to be pulling yours. And when they're putting their spuds in, it's a good time to put yours in.
Yeah. So as Eric said, just like they say to tourists, when in doubt, do like the locals. When in Rome, of course. And the other part of that was, go on, Lee, sorry.
Now is the time when the fruit trees will be coming on sale in the supermarkets, and they're always about 2 months early than when you should actually put them in. So when you come into the supermarket, give it a few weeks before you go out and buy one. Okay. And don't buy a market. Go to a decent garden centre or a decent local provider and buy it from there.
So it's a marketing thing. It's just like how they start selling Christmas stuff too early. Yeah. They do it with the other stuff as well. Okay, but you can take it as an early sign and then think, okay, I've got a few weeks before I really need to do it. A bit like Christmas. Yeah, okay. And the other part of that was trial and error. And last year was a bit of a disaster. And I bet your diaries are really precious things to look back on. If you do copy your neighbours and get help from your neighbours, you're going to get some success as well, aren't you? So if you do it all your own way and do it all experimental, you are likely to have a lot of failure that might help you lose your confidence in the garden. So it's probably quite a good idea, isn't it, to copy the local pattern so that you can get something out of the ground and feel accomplished. Because it's soul destroying, isn't it, if it all doesn't work out?
Although I'm a great believer in trial and error, it is really upsetting when you've spent months getting seeds to germinate, getting them to a good size, preparing your ground, and you put them in and you get a heavy frost.
Yes.
Or something goes terribly wrong. You got the wrong type of plant and the bugs come in and destroy it. Yeah, it can be heartbreaking. But it's a good learning experience. It's a good learning curve. Yeah. And if you bounce from that, you just become better and better every year.
Stick with it. Okay, better luck this next year. And send us photos as well. Who was that, Anna? Did we find out?
I'm hoping I can pronounce the name right. It wasn't. Sorry, I thought the question was from Khadija. It's actually from. Is it Becco? I can't remember.
Biko or Becco? Yeah, fine. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's yes. It was yes, it was from them. So sorry for the mix-up.
Not at all. Not at all. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And I hope that's useful. Deagle's saying, I know my football team, Tranmere Rovers, have How did you end up supporting Tranmere Rovers, Deagle? Would be my question. But anyway, they've got 95% grass, 5% artificial plastic fibre stitched into the pitch. It stops the cutting up. Okay, and a bit hot on the shins, I think, when you skid across that lot as well. But anyway,
they can also put a mesh netting just under the soil, like millimeters under the soil.
Yeah,
and that bonds the ground together and stops the studs from ripping up the ground.
Yeah,
you don't actually feel it when you slide across. You don't feel the mesh at all.
What an amazing job! I mean, those groundsmen and women must be paid a good money to keep it like that, right?
Unfortunately, not. No.
Oh, okay.
A lad I went to college with, when we finished at uni at Lancaster, he went straight out to the States and started working over there and was on a great wage. And he did further education in America. He worked for some of the biggest stadiums in America, had a great reputation, and he couldn't find a job that would pay him equally in England. It just wasn't worth him coming home. So he's ended up staying in the States. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the lads that work on the golf courses that have been there all their lives, they're still only barely getting over minimum wage. You know, it's terrible.
Yeah. It's part of Britain's class system, isn't it? It's like you're part of the staff on the manor, aren't you? You might get a cottage and you might get benefits and stuff, but the wages just aren't there. Fascinating, and that's all the way through gardening, I think, in the UK, isn't it?
I think unless you go the route I do, where you specifically price yourself high for your knowledge base and your attitude towards it and the quality of work, some people are prepared to pay for it, and I'm happy to work for those people. But then you got when I used to work, the joke was, well, I used to work in Oldham, the Manchester area. Guy down the road from us was a fireman during the week, and then on his 2 or 3 days off, he'd cut grass at £4 a garden, and you think, how can you make a living? And you just
Beer money. Yeah.
It was.
Okay, Don, on voles, mice, etc. I've heard that planting tobacco plants keep them from destroying crops. Is this true? So tobacco plants keep the voles and the little rodents away?
To be honest, I've heard of so many old wives' tales of plants that keep voles and mice away. And as far as I know, they'll eat absolutely anything and destroy anything. The big one at the moment in Portugal here is the mole. It's that time of year when the moles are becoming more and more active. Yeah. And they've just bred, so they're appearing everywhere.
Okay, so come on.
You'll see people with little fans and little vibrator kit and solar panel things that are meant to deter the voles.
What do you use? What's your best? What's the thing? Is just let them go and just keep rolling it down. Nothing.
No, trap them and kill them.
Oh, trap them.
It's the only way to do it. I have scissor traps that you put the scissor in the existing tunnel. Yeah. Put a bucket over that. Put 2 garden canes in so the local dogs can't knock the bucket over, and leave it for a week. Well, you're meant to check it every 48 hours. You're meant to go and check it. Yeah. So I do every 48 hours. I check them, or I have the customer check for me. But the only way to deal with it is to kill them. Okay.
Taste like chicken or not?
They're actually bigger than you imagine. They actually are. They're quite large. I've never tried to eat them. Yeah.
All right, fair play. After years of teaching at schools with some great grounds, the secret, they said, was to mow regularly and often. I have to say, give me a brush cutter on a tractor over a lawnmower anytime. And Lee, it's all a matter of marketing, I believe. I have the same working as a freelancer myself. Yeah, it is the great freelancer challenge, isn't it? Valuing yourself and working for people who value you as well. Talking of pests, voles and mice and moles, Anna, you posted something great up in the Get Out and Grow Group, because you've got a particular pest that you've been tracking down for many years, I think, haven't you?
Yes, we. In fact, yes, I'm trying to remember how far back it was now, but it was yes. If it's not rodents on the bird feeders, I sort of came across yes. I'm trying to remember actually where it was now. I did manage to find something on the good old vine weevil, which I do remember coming across many a time, trying to protect fruit plants in particular. I have to say they were in pots at the time, but yes, they are quite. Well, I was going to say they can be quite tricky to find. If you know what you're looking for, you can easily get excited like myself. Even if you find a stone, as I often did many a time. But yes, I have to say I've actually seen more vine weevils than lily beetles, which I think they actually turn into over time. But yes, so do check roots as often as you can on plants, because if you come across a plant that's hardly got any roots, you might have a case of vine weevil attacking the plants.
Okay, good one, Anna. Thank you very much for that. Deagle's been. Sorry,
go
on.
I think you just. I'm not sure if there's an actual cure for this, but I do remember rinsing off the roots seem to help sort of prevent them coming back, but I'm not entirely sure if that's completely tried and tested.
Okay, thanks, Anna. Smash that like button, says Thunder. Nice one, mate. Thanks for reminding everybody. Lee, any idea what scissor traps are called in Portuguese? As I will ask the local. I mean, I want to see some miming. Box. Do you know, Lee?
I don't know, because I bought mine from the local agricultural store, and they had them on display, so I didn't need to ask.
Check out your agri.
Yeah, they're on the shelf on display next to the rodent poisons and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Maybe
tell them Leroy Merlin as well.
Leroy Merlin. There's a good tip. Yeah. Okay.
A little bit more expensive.
Yeah, but a nice retail experience at Leroy's. Benoit from this ripped-looking user, Facebook user tonight. Thank you very much for that. Is there anything else? Because we're just coming into our closing minutes here. I can show a couple of pictures from Deagle. Have we missed anything, Anna or John?
Not that I can think of, to be honest.
Pine cones in Portugal, it's now illegal to pick them up off the floor until the 1st of December.
Why?
If they fall in your garden, you can remove them, but a lot of people here use them for lighting the fires.
Yes.
So it's now illegal to go into the countryside and collect them until the 1st of, from this week till the 1st of, let's say the 1st of December. Yeah.
I think. Why is that? What? I mean, what's the problem that's caused by that?
It's the germination time for the seeds. It's the time of year the new ones are falling and they're setting seed, so they're protected this time of year, just for a month or two. But there's been a thing in the press this week about people being caught collecting them en masse and prosecuted.
Wow. Imagine having that on your criminal record: collecting pine cones too early. Portugal's most wanted. And some lovely colour from Belfast. For us tonight, chrysanthemum. That's a lovely show in a dark garden, isn't it, on a dark night? And some spider's web with some rain in it. Always a nice thing to see. Thank you very much for those pics, Deagle. What we got there, Anna?
I'm just trying to remember if I have remembered this right. I think this is a bit of getting ready for spring. This is when I was in Timoth at the weekend. I think we were planting some. I'm trying to remember if it was tulips and daffodils, but I was helping to plant in a few bulbs at the weekend. And yes, that was the container that they were going into. And I'm not sure how many we actually got in the containers, but I think we were sort of planting about 2 or 3 of them. So hopefully they'll be doing well in the spring, hopefully.
Good job getting those bulbs in. Armadillas de Tesora. There you go, Pete. That might have saved him a few euros or ended up going home with something quite strange after all, after being too embarrassed to say, no, that's not what I want. Okay, lovely job. Great job tonight. Great session. Thanks, everybody, for your questions, for your comments, for your contributions. Lee, Head Gardener McGrady, the legend who is Head Gardener McGrady. Thank you so much, mate, and we'll see you again next week.
Good night.
All right, good night, and bye for now.